What's up, everybody? All right, here we go. All right, you guys, what's up, everyone? Hey, Axel. Okay, I'm gonna wait for everybody to get in here, and then I'll message Toni and we'll bring her on. Toni, you go live on your account, okay, baby? So that way, and give us about 5 minutes, and then we're gonna bring her on. We gotta get our numbers up, get everybody in the room. Toni, you go get your live going and get all your people in the room. I'll get all my people in the room. So that way, and this is a great way that we help each other grow, okay, guys? So Toni and me have, I think I have just a little bit more of more followers than she does, but not a lot more. But this is how we are sharing. This is gonna help her because you guys are gonna find her account, and this is gonna help me because people are gonna find my account from her account. And so it's a win-win situation. I'm excited too. Y'all come on in, y'all. Toni's gonna come tell her story. Okay? Okay. Boom, chaka-laka-laka. Come on in, everybody. Toni's coming to tell her story today. Oh, I'm gonna have to shut that off. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna have to. There we go. Okay, come on in, everybody. Come on in. I had to put my notifications on Do Not Disturb because I've been getting a lot of notifications today. Come on in, everyone. Tonight we have a special guest, today we have a special guest speaker. Her name is Toni Quinn. She's one of my really good friends here on TikTok. She reached out to me about a month and a half ago and had me on her YouTube channel. She is a recovering meth addict, and she is also recovering from an eating disorder, and she lives in South Africa. And I am so excited to have her on. So let me go ahead and boom chakalaka. So y'all come on in. My name's Nicole. I'm a person in recovery. Boom. Hey, girl.
Hey, how are you, Nick?
I am good. Can you hear me good?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you good. Okay, girl.
Yes.
It is an honor to have your beautiful face on my channel. I'm super excited. I was just telling everybody that you live in South Africa, which is so crazy to me that we are reaching each other that far away, you know?
I love it so much. I love that we've met each other through this. It's insane.
So this is what I want you to do. I already went on your channel, which was amazing. And if y'all don't know, Toni has a YouTube channel. I will link her YouTube channel on my YouTube when I upload this video, and I'll probably make a little video letting you guys know that her video is going to be on my YouTube channel, and I'll link her TikTok account on my video. But Toni, would you please tell us all what your name is, how long you've been sober, what your drug of choice was, and then kind of start out and let us know what it was like when you were a kid growing up. How did you get into using drugs, what it was like in your addiction, and what your life is like now. And if I have any questions, I'll kind of just like, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicole, thank you first of all so much for having me on here. It's like, it really means so much to me. I came across your profile a while ago, and you're just an amazing woman. So the fact that you've asked me here really means a lot to me. So thank you. Just thought I'd throw that in.
I love you. It's easy to have you on because you're amazing. So it's not even a big deal. I love you.
I love you too, so much, so much. And it was an honor to have you on the YouTube channel, for real. I was so nervous as well. But just to go a little bit into the beginning of my story. So I grew up in, really a good household, loving family, younger brother. My parents were great to me, bad with each other, hated each other. So that was the only toxicity in the household was my mom and my dad just didn't get on. There was a lot of fighting, and I went through that for years and years and years. But there wasn't anything specifically traumatic that happened to me. When I was younger, my dad did get into a very serious accident. Sorry, my boyfriend's walking in as I'm getting into the...
That's fine.
Hey, baby.
Tell him we said hi.
Nicole says hi. Hi. When I was younger, my dad got into a very severe water skiing accident, and he was in a coma for 3 weeks. And it was really bad because as he came out of the coma, he sunk into a really severe depression. And he was never the same afterwards. He had to learn to walk again. He was in so much pain, so much agony. So
Wow.
that also changed it was a really toxic environment in the home to become even more. It was like walking on eggshells. Everyone was walking on eggshells. It wasn't a great environment to be in. But other than that specific incident, there was nothing, incredibly traumatizing that happened. And I went into high school, and that's when things started to change quite severely for me. I never really fit in. I went to a private Jewish school. And as you can tell, I don't fit that mold at all.
Right.
So I was dude, I was just there. I was the weird kid, And I was into art. I was into different kinds of things. And I never really fit in. And I was always looking for a way to stand out. For me, it was always about trying to stand out, but trying to be accepted at the same time. And it was wearing mask after mask after mask to fit in. And I started to take since I was a kid, I was obsessed with how I looked. And I struggle to this day with really bad body dysmorphic disorder, which I would say is my primary issue. So I started wearing makeup at the age of 9 years old. And that carried with me until clearly now.
But when you're a kid like that, it's like, I understand because my story. I was the same way. I felt like everything about me I felt like wasn't good enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't tan enough. I wasn't skinny enough. So I totally understand.
That's exactly what all the things you mentioned is exactly how I felt from the age of 9. And especially in the environment I grew up in, it was a very competitive, it was based on how you look, it was based on money, and I never fit that mold. My family, my mom is a beautiful woman, and that's, I think, where a lot of my insecurity also came from, because I would get teased that I wasn't like her when I was a kid, So those kind of little things that seem insignificant now were really big for me back then.
Yeah.
And then I went to high school and started focusing in more on what I look like and how people perceive me. And I wanted to be in control of how they saw me. I wanted to take control over how they saw me. So if they thought I was weird, I was going to show them how weird I really was, So I went full goth. I went for the shock factor. And that's been something I carry with me, until this recovery. I like to shock people. I like to be in control that way, which is such a toxic trait. It really is.
I like it too a little bit. I'm the same way. I feel like I think that's because we want back then, especially, it's because we wanted attention and acceptance. And now, though, that we're sober, it's like we see that we don't need to do that to have people accept us because they love us just the way that we are.
Absolutely. It takes, it's that level of self-awareness you find in recovery. And I never had self-awareness ever. I lacked it completely. And so in high school, that's when, so I started to change what I looked like to stand out. And that's when I developed my primary illness. It's first body dysmorphic disorder. Actually, that's the primary one. And then came the eating disorder. I don't want to say the word on here in case it gets flagged. So I got a very severe ED, and I got very, very, very ill at the age of 14, 15 is when it started. And I was in and out of institutions due to that. And it became almost my persona. It was like I liked the fact that I was the damaged girl. I was the sick girl. I saw myself as very interesting and different from the rest of the crowd. And I held on to that like it was mine, like it was my mask. Like it was my best friend. It's the control I had around that was huge. And I felt like that was my identifying factor. And I could not let it go. No matter what I did, I could not let it go. During the ED, you get to a point where you're so tired, you're so sick of it, and every part of you wants to stop it. And you're like, I just want things to become normal again. I want to be able to eat. I want to be able to look in the mirror and not want to crawl out of my own skin. And I never got to the point where I was able to do that. And just like, drug addiction, I tried. there were times I genuinely tried to get out of that mindset, and something always set me back, a trigger within myself that set me back. And that eating disorder carried through my relationships. And because I was so toxic within myself, I found myself with my first boyfriend, who was honest. I have been through, and you know this, Nick, I've been through some abusive relationships.
Mm-hmm.
This to me was of the worst because I was 16 years old when it started. It ended when I was in varsity and university. And it was the emotional abuse that I cannot put into words. And it's your first relationship, it's all you know, and you think it's completely normal. And the way he treated me fueled the ED. So he was like, "You're never going to get better than me. You know, you're not good enough for anyone else. You're never going to get better than me. I'm too good for you." That's the kind of things he would say to me. So that toxicity of that relationship fueled the ED, and it's almost like I used the two of them against each other. I was like, okay, I was stuck. I was just stuck in this kind of area. And he also never let me drink. So I used to drink in high school. You know, I got the whole school drunk one year. I was not okay. And he stopped from drinking, especially when I left school and went into university. He never wanted me to drink. So I couldn't because I was petrified of him.
Uh-huh.
And you know that feeling when someone just has that complete control over you.
Oh yeah,
And
I know what you're talking about. It's like
you would,
especially when you're young like that, and he's telling you like you're never going to get anybody better than me. You're never going to amount to anything. It's like your brain is developing still, and it's like you know that what they're saying is a lie, but it's because they say it so much and they're so close to you. It's like it just becomes like you believe it. You believe it after a while. And especially when you're young like that. I had the same situation with a guy, you know, and I was starving myself because he kept telling me, "Oh, just 5 more pounds and you'll be perfect." Terrible.
It breaks my, and again, like you say, and I think that's the biggest point of the issue I have with that relationship is I was so young and I didn't know any better, and it's all I knew. It's all I knew. And no one did anything. Even within my family, my grandmother did something. She nearly killed him. But no one, everyone just
How did she know? Did she see him treating you badly?
What happened was with my grandmother, so she had moved in with my family at this point because my grandfather had just passed away. Uh-huh. And I was in university at this time, and me and this guy were going out that night to go clubbing. And I got dressed up and I did my makeup and I put on nice clothes, you know, a little bit of cleavage. I can't help my cleavage. This is real. Right. And I had a little bit. And I went into his car, and this is what my grandmother told me. As I left and walked to his car, my grandmother turned to my mom and said, "She's going to be back in 5 minutes." And I got in the car, and honest to God, the guy turns to me and he goes, "You're a," and, you know, starts those words, "You're a whore." I don't want to say the words on your live. And just berating me. And he stopped his car and he made me out on the road in quite a dangerous area and walk home, because he didn't want me at the club with other people looking at me. And as I walked in the house, my grandmother started crying, and she said to my mom, she said, "Giselle, I told you this is what's going on." And she was the only one who spoke to me about it. Everyone else ignored it because he was such a catch. He was such a nice, funny guy, you know.
Right.
Sorry?
Do you think your mom and your family were afraid to talk, or did your parents run away from controversial situations like that? Like they didn't like to have, what is it called? Not controversy, but
confrontation,
to confront him. Did they kind of like, they didn't talk about mental health. They didn't talk about the situation with your boyfriend. They didn't talk about your ED. Did they just try to act like it wasn't happening?
So my mom was quite, can I tell you what I genuinely think happened with my mom there? I think she had the same relationship I had with that guy, similar with my father. Mm-hmm. And I think she thought it was normal. Okay. Because that was her first relationship. So what I see is that pattern with her. And regarding my dad, he was so depressed at that point that he was hardly home, if at home, and if he was home, he was in his room. He went into a really, really, really intense suicidal depression after his accident, and it carried on for years. So I think it's not that he didn't care, it's that he wasn't even aware, you
Right.
know? And for my mom, I think she's got a lot of guilt about it to this day. But I think she didn't want the confrontation, and she didn't want to seem like she wasn't being supportive of me as well, because she's a people pleaser. And I think she thought it was a normal relationship.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was the one, no, that's not normal, fam. Let's fix this. So that's actually a very interesting thing to actually unpack, because I haven't unpacked that in a while. And I did have mad resentment towards both my parents in that regard. Very, very big resentment. In fact, my father worked with that man when I got out of rehab this last time, 9 years ago. I was working in my father's place during the halfway house, and this guy walked into my father's office and shook his hand. And that was a big, big resentment. And I managed to work through that with my father afterwards. But yeah, so it was a huge issue of contention in my life. So anyway, after that relationship, he didn't allow me to drink. As soon as we broke up, I was like, I'm going to drink now. And I went out with my university friends that night. I studied drama, and we went to the theater, and we got hammered. I had a bottle of vodka, and I drank the whole thing, and I blacked out. First proper blackout. Look, I blacked out at the age of 16 once, but other than that, that was like the first big one. And that became a pattern. And then I got into another relationship after that with a guy who I thought was really nice, really caring, you know. And one night, sorry, babe, it makes Carl like sad. One night, it was our first we got intimate for the first time, and he R-worded me. And in that moment, it felt like I was outside of my body, and it wasn't violent. It wasn't the screaming, shouting, you know, that kind of experience. And he got up and he walked. Should have gotten into it with your surgeon. Tariq, don't worry, my bro. I'm very open about this. Go check my videos on my channel. But thank you for trying to troll. Anyway, so.
So he took it from you. He RAPED'd you.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. And this is where it gets like, this is the part for me that messes me up the most, is afterwards. So he got up and he walked to the kitchen. Now, he was in his parents' home, by the way. And I got up, I got dressed, and I walked to the kitchen, and he apologized to me. And he started crying, and he said, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And if that never happened, I think a part of me would have questioned the whole situation, because I was so outside of my body, and that solidified the reality of it for me. And I also felt so sorry for him. I felt so sorry for him, which still angers me. Like, I still feel sorry for him. I have to work through that.
Why did he do that to you? Why did he do that? Because you weren't wanting to and he just wanted to?
That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. I was like, no. And, you know, no wasn't the right answer, apparently, for him. And it was one of the weirdest moments, and I blocked out a lot of it. It felt like I came out of my body and I was looking down. That's how it felt to me. I do a lot of disassociating, and I did it throughout my life. So that was obviously one of the biggest moments for me. And I got in my car and I went home, and I was shocked. I wasn't even crying. And I woke my mother up, and I told her what happened. And I didn't go to university for a week. My dad and my mom were split up at this time, and he was living in another place in South Africa. And he flew back, and we discussed it as a family. And, you know, I had to work through that. Obviously, I ended the relationship with that man. But that's when the drinking spiraled. And I had just turned 21. I think it was even a week after that happened. And it was my 21st birthday. It was a huge celebration. And I got completely hammered. That the party started at 8 o'clock in the evening. And at 9 o'clock, I was being carried out. So an hour later, I was carried out, taken to my mom's house. I don't remember how I got there. And I woke up in a tutu. In a tutu. I don't know how I got from one point of the night to the next. That happened. And that's when the series of drunkenness continued and spiraled. And I'm just going to cut it quite short to that part because, like, it's repetitive. It was just me getting drunk, messing up, making mistakes, embarrassing myself, hurting people. And the one night I got into a really, really dangerous situation. I put my friends in a dangerous situation due to my drinking. And I made the decision myself to go into treatment, to go into a rehabilitation center. And I went in the next day, and my family was really happy. Everyone was proud of me. I'm taking this step. And I went in, and I was in there for a week. And I was like, I'm cured. I'm cured. I'm never doing this again. I'm done. 100% sorted. But you know what? Like, I checked myself out. And that night, my cousin, who was my best friend, she was my sister, 10 months apart, amazing human being, not a bad bone in her body. She used to look after me on nights out when I was trashed. She came to visit me when I checked myself out, and she kept saying, I've got this headache. I've got this really, really bad headache. And my mom ended up taking her to hospital that night to go check what's going on, because she wasn't a person to complain. She wasn't like me. I cut myself. I'm gonna die. And most dramatic. She was the opposite. And so my mom took her to the hospital, and they said, it's just a little bit of a headache. Take this medication. It's called Viral Choice. Go home, you're fine. At 3 o'clock in the morning, my mom woke me up, and Terry had seizured and been rushed to hospital and was in a coma with meningitis.
Oh my God.
And yeah, she was 23 years old. And the next 3 weeks were spent at the hospital. She was in a coma. She was brain dead. And she passed away after 3 weeks. So my family, I lost my sister. My auntie lost her child. Her sister, who was 8 months pregnant, lost her sister. And her other sister was writing her final exams in high school when all of this went down. And I had just gotten out of rehab. And the one stable, good human being in our life was taken from us,
Yeah.
And instead of, I remember holding her hand when she was in that room, and she was quarantined because it was meningitis, so we had to wear suits. And I held her hand and I said, I promise you I'm never going to mess up again. I'm not going to drink. I'm going to stop this behavior. And instead of doing that, when she died, as a lot of people here know, in active addiction, I used that tragedy as an excuse to fuel my disorder. It was like I went straight into victim mode and did not care about the people I was hurting, my family who was mourning, or the memory of my cousin. I used it as an excuse. And that's when the drugs came into play. And like most people, I met a man, and I knew he was a drug addict. I knew exactly what he was, and I knew what he did. And I was like, what's a good idea? That's going to end so well for me.
And you were going through a hard time, though. And so just like you were checking out of life. You know what I mean? Can I ask you one question? What is it like? What is rehab like in South Africa? Is it hard to get into rehab? Is it free? Is it 30 days? What is it like there?
Rehabilitation in South Africa is so expensive. It's medical aid. If you are lucky enough to have medical aid in this country, you can be covered for 28 days to go into a rehabilitation center. If you're paying out of your own pocket, you can spend up to, now this is in rands. If I had to convert it to, I'll convert it to dollars now, but you can spend up to 50,000 rand on 2 weeks stay, which is, what would that be in dollars? Sorry, I'm trying to figure this out. So that would be like, I don't know, 10,000. Okay, we're bad at math. It's a lot, $5,000 for a few days. Now, in this country, that is a lot of money, and it is difficult. I am privileged to have been able to go to a rehabilitation center.
Right.
So to get in is difficult. And the free centers are not managed in the best way. You know, they're not, some of them don't have, which is fine to not have a 12-step program, but it's basically just a place where you go to detox and leave. You know, there's not too intense therapy. And if you're going for a place with therapy or something that's going to help you work through it, you are looking to pay money. And then the places that are cheaper, there's a place here called Noput, which is, just Google it. And it's not it's changed now, but people have died there.
Wow.
And there's very difficult for people to get the help here. Wow. It really is. And I was privileged enough to get it. And I threw it in my parents' faces. But anyway, that rehab that I went to was 12-step. It was talk therapy. It was also almost like a hotel. It wasn't one where I faced real consequences. That comes later.
Right.
And yeah,
okay,
that was
I was just wondering because I figured it was probably like really difficult to get help there. And I'm sure that a lot of people struggle with being like poor, not having any income. And so that probably makes it even harder. Is addiction like heavy stigmatized in South Africa? Like people look down on you?
Massively so, massively so. It's it affects obviously the lower income communities so much worse, and they don't have the help. And that's something that me and a guy named David Collins are trying to get involved in this side, because there's nowhere to really turn. And there's a huge stigma around it. People, you know what? There was a story. There was a woman in Cape Town whose son was struggling severely with an addiction in South Africa on tuk, which is meth. She was so desperate to save him, and no one else would, kind of intervene. It was difficult to get the help that she had to. She chained him to a bed in their house to help him detox, and so he wouldn't escape and that he wouldn't, hurt himself. And as horrific as that sounds, if you don't know the situation within the country and in that community, it makes so much sense that a mother would do that to save her son.
For her, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, go look for that story. Actually, go look for that story.
I will.
It's the desperation it runs deep in every community in this country. And I feel like only people, it's very difficult to get sober if you don't have the 12 steps, which luckily is everywhere and it's free. And that's why it's really big here, because people who do struggle with that place to go. It's one like safe place is a meeting,
Right.
But rehabilitation, it's almost inaccessible right now.
Okay.
It makes me sad about.
Thank you for letting me know that. I don't mean to get you off track, but I just wanted to know. So, okay, so you met somebody and you tell us about that. You met a guy? It was a guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I met a guy. And I knew exactly what he was about, like I said. And I was very heavily drinking at this point, feeling very sorry for myself. And I was like, this is the best idea ever. So the night that I started doing my drug of choice, I was super drunk. Went back to his house. Now, in South Africa, there's a drug called cat, and I can say it, yay, because they.
I know what that is. I know what that is. Dr. B taught me about it. It's catatones.
Oh no, it's not.
No,
it's not that. Are you talking
about
the leaf? No, it's not that.
Okay.
So. That does exist in Africa as well, but it's not that. The cat it's CAT. It's not cat. It's nothing. The plant. Think about Drano. Like imagine an in-between of Coke and our drug and
meth.
The in-between is cat.
Okay.
It's literally it is the trash cheap drug that is a scourge on this country. And so he said to me, I thought what he was giving me I thought it was cat. I didn't know any better. I'd never done hard drugs before. And so I was like, cool, I'm going to do it. I might as well. I'm drunk anyway, whatever. I don't care. And I did it. And then 3 days later, my heart was pounding through my chest. We'd been up for 3 days. And I was sick. I was paranoid. I was like, dude, what the hell? Like, I don't like this. I think I'm going to die. And he was like, oh, by the way, that wasn't cat, that was meth. And that is when that addiction started. And during that time, I went between meth and cat consistently for years. And everything just went out of whack. Obviously, it took away my eating disorder thoughts because I wasn't concentrating on that. So it eased that side of my mind in my thinking. That's what it did. And it fueled it. It made everything in my life worse. It amplified all my pain. It ruined my relationship with my mother. It ruined my relationship with my cousins who had just lost their sister. It had ruined my relationship with my auntie who had just lost her child, who I took complete advantage of in my active addiction. And I did things, obviously, that I had a lot of guilt and shame around, whether it was to get the money, whether it was related to my relationship. No matter what it was, I crossed every moral boundary I ever had in my life, stepped over it, and stopped caring, and just destroyed my value system, you know? And during that time, obviously, it became very it became very noticeable during that time, barring, you know, my behavior, the way I was stealing from my mother, the way I was hurting my family, the physical altercations I got into with my family. I abused my mother. Like, I would attack her if I didn't get what I wanted. And going missing for days, she obviously picked up that I had a drug problem, and she was in denial about it for a long time until she found something in my purse, you know? And when she found that, so now it's the second time I'm going to rehab. I fought her on it. I lied. I said, it's not mine, it's someone else's, all this cut. And anyway, I ended up going to rehab that time.
What did she find? A pipe? A syringe?
No. She found a baggie.
Oh, baggie. Gotcha. And just so you know,
I don't know if you know.
I got into fights with my mom too when I was on meth. It made me like super violent with her because it was like, I wasn't like that with my dad, but it was like my mom would just like, she would agitate me and get underneath my skin because I knew that she knew and it was hurting her and it was hurting me. And so we would be, and I have so much guilt. I feel horrible about that.
You know what? I have this one, and I speak about it quite a lot. It was the one day I was going to meet my dealer at a McDonald's down the road. Okay. I remember it so clearly. I was desperate. I was like on my way, and I was still living at home at this time when I was home, and with my mom, and she barricaded my door. She got in the way of my door, and she was like, "You're not leaving the house. You're not doing anything." And I just saw red, and I picked the glass and I threw it at her, and I cut her whole leg open. It shattered in my mom's leg. Whew. And you know, she started crying or whatever, and I stood over her. I walked over her while she lay there bleeding. My brother ran in, and I went to the dealer. And another time I got physical with her, my brother intervened, and he actually restrained me on the bed, and I was losing my mind. He picked me up, and he's a big guy, and he threw me out of the bed. And this is the most typical addict thing, you know, and you'll relate to this. I saw it as an opportunity. So what does this genius do? I hit my head against the wall harder than it would ever have hit the wall.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, you're abusing me. I'm being abused. I'm the victim. And I phoned my dad, and I was like, Dad, Warren's abusing me. I don't know what to do. I sent him photos of the bruise. And then who gets sent money? You know, that's the level of abuse. So that's a huge part of the guilt and shame that I had. And I mean, I have worked through, and I have made amends with my family. But that's what my poor mother went through.
Yeah.
And when I went to that other rehab, I just completely, and I went to the same one I went to previously when she found the bag on me. I just bullshitted my way through. Hey, I didn't want to get sober. I was like, this is a holiday. I'm here. I'm going to detox a bit. I'll pretend to be into this, and I'll leave and I'll use again.
Right.
And and I met a guy in the 12-step program don't do that when you're in like a week sober, guys. Just don't do that.
Did he
And
did he date you? Did he 13 step
oh
you?
yeah,
Oh hell.
13, 13, and guess what? I relapsed.
Yep.
And I relapsed, and it became a pattern. It became a cycle. So this other drug addict who I was seeing, that first guy, was on and off, on and off, on and off, but always a constant in my addiction. But he was just always there. We weren't really dating at the end. We were just kind of seeing each other, when it suited us.
Yeah.
And then things really got bad. When you get to that super dark place. I had gotten out of another rehab, and my mom was like, okay, we're going to turn your life around. You study drama. Why don't you go do your master's, and then you can even teach it in the meantime if need be. So I was like, cool, I'll do that. So I registered for my master's, and I never went to university. I had relapsed. I would go to the university's grounds, using my car, freaking carpet surf my car to try to find stuff. And I would say to my mom, I need to get books. I need to get books for varsity. I need to pay for this, pay for that. And she would give me the money. And I would use her card to withdraw. And my drug of choice at the time cost 300 Rand or 200 Rand. And I would withdraw 50 Rand at a time from my mom's card so she wouldn't get a notification that money was being taken out. So I stole from her and stole from her and stole from her. And then she started picking up, obviously all this money is going. I think it was like 60,000 Rand in two weeks or something stupid. And then she said to me, you're coming home and we're doing a drug test now. And I knew I wasn't going to get away with it. I knew. So I was like, fuck you, I'm going to go speak to my dad now, who my father wasn't there during any of this addiction. I was like, I'm going to his house, he's going to protect me. And I walked in and he looked at me, and that's all he needed. You know what you look like at that point. I had the eating disorder on top of the drug addiction. I was not a human being anymore. I was just this gray, soulless thing. And I walked in and he said to me, okay, just calm down, settle down. And I went to the bathroom and I just hear the door lock from the outside. And yeah, my dad locked me in the bathroom, and he was like, a rehab you have never been to before, and you're going to that rehab tomorrow. If you do not go, I will get a section against you, or you can get out the house and you can be on the streets. First real consequence I ever had.
Yep.
And it was serious when it came from my father, because I could I could manipulate my mom. My father, however, was very similar to me, and fam could not manipulate that man. Phoned the rehab, told them what was wrong. They were like, listen, she's got the eating disorder and she's on these drugs. She's going to die.
Right.
Send her tomorrow for her. Then they took me to this rehab, which was new to me. And it was a hard rehab, like hard work, long term, 12 steps as well, except real consequences. You have to wake up early. You have to clean. You have chores to do. Go to group, real serious consequences from the other places I had been to. And 2 weeks into that rehabilitation stay, I started getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and was rushed to emergency to the hospital. And I had gone into pre-renal failure, so my kidneys were failing. Had I had gone another few days or weeks before that intervention, I would not be here today.
Yep.
There's no way I would be. And in the hospital,
you were tiny. You must have been like under 70 pounds. And
I was
completely emaciated because your body was shutting down.
Yeah.
Dang. Oh my God. Thank God you're okay now. And you're already naturally a small person. You know what I mean? So I cannot even imagine you on methamphetamine, because it would have just sucked all the life out of you.
It was a horror show. It was a complete and utter horror show. I'll never I thought that I looked fine.
Yeah.
And that's also the body, and the drugs on top of that. But I've deleted most of those photos, and I don't like to actually see just how bad it got, because it's super triggering in a way. And I don't know how, I don't know how this body, after all I had put it through, especially with high school and the eating disorder, actually survived. It's a miracle, that part. And even in that hospital bed, they had obviously taken my cell phone away because I was in rehab at the time. If I'd had my phone when I was in that hospital room, I would have phoned my ex, that guy, to come pick me up from hospital and take me to use. It wasn't even my awakening at that point. I was like, I don't care at this point. Then I was taken back to the rehab, and I thought that I would do 4 weeks and I'd get out. And my father, because he was in control of this whole situation for the first time, was like, no, 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 you're staying. And I ended up staying. And that stay, as each day went by, and I did the work and I did the 12 steps within the place, as much as I didn't want to in the beginning, I realized things started to get better. You know, when you wake up and you're not feeling sick, when you wake up and you don't want to die, like it's a little bit better. And I mean, it wasn't enough at that point for me, you know, it was just a one day at a time thing. But I started mending relationships with family members, and I started becoming more and more self-aware. My counselors at that rehab were all recovering addicts, every single one, which I found a lot better than the other rehabilitation centers, because you can't bullshit a bullshit.
Right.
And every time I would try lie and manipulate, they would just be like, no, 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 I've done that. And the one day, this is when everything changed for me in the rehab. I was sitting there in group, feeling very sorry for myself, trying to spin the worst, you know, traumatic story ever about my poor life. And I spoke about the passing of my cousin. And I was like, it was the worst moment of my life, blah, blah, blah. And my counselor turned to me, and I'll never forget, she's an amazing woman as well. Her name's also Nikki. Her name's Nicole. Yeah. I'm going to show you her stuff as well. She turned to me and she said, okay, how does it feel disrespecting the memory of your cousin? Because the whole time I was making it about me. And as she said that, in that moment, that's the first time I experienced true self-awareness, and I let go victim mode. But it was a close call, because I was holding the chair and I was like, okay, one part of me wants to get into a physical altercation with this woman, because how dare she say that? But then it just kind of washed over me, the facts. That's what I did. And that's when my recovery started shifting and started changing. And as each day went by, I went from that recovery, I went into a halfway house, I went into a sober house, and I had basically 2 years of recovery within those safe spaces.
Good.
And as each day,
that's awesome. People need to understand that you can go into treatment, and then like it's so important to follow it up with like supportive services, like sober living, intensive outpatient, 12 steps, all that good stuff.
And I did it. I committed to it. I really put my heart and soul into it. I had nothing left. Yeah. I had no friends. I had no job. I had nothing. And I was like, these are the people I'm connecting with now. And I needed community, because for so long I had been without community and constantly seeking it in my drug use. And then within the drug use, you have your drug using friends, and then you find yourself isolating more and more because you want to use more and more, and you lose any bit of community you were seeking. So within a 12-step program, and within those years of being inpatient and doing outpatient programs and, you know, living that lifestyle, I found a community just to get me through that beginning stage. You know, I needed that. I needed my NA meetings. I needed the 12 steps, and I needed people in recovery to surround me. And I am so forever grateful for that experience. In that time, I got my first job that I got through someone I met in recovery who was like, you're a good writer. Why don't you try work for this digital marketing agency as a freelancer? Which I did. Ended up becoming a senior content writer at that place full time. And it's become my career. I'm a content writer now because of someone I met in recovery.
That's awesome.
And it's amazing. It's amazing. And mended relationships with my family. However, this is something that I feel is very necessary to talk about, and what makes that a lot of people with eating disorders don't like to share is, as soon as you put down the substances and the mind-altering substances, and that part of your life is put away, the eating problems just came to the surface, worse than they had ever been since I was 14 years old, happened in this recovery. And up until 3 years ago, just go back a bit, in this recovery, I'm 9 years sober. In my third year of sobriety, I was institutionalized again. And I was institutionalized for the ED. I again nearly died. I was put in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk. I wasn't allowed to walk. And I was incredibly, incredibly ill. I got into a relationship with someone at that time who left me because of how bad it got. And I do not blame the person at all. It was severe. I could have died at any moment again. And I did this to myself. It's such a severe sickness, though. It's not like addiction where, you put down the substance and you can not look at it.
Right.
When it came to food, it's what you need to survive, but you have such a hateful and toxic relationship with it that there's a fear around completely normal. And I thought, as well as my family, as well as my friends, that is what was going to take me out. That is what was going to kill me. So as much as I really did well in my addiction recovery, made amends with my family, and started doing well in the workspace, my life became consumed by the eating disorder. And I grew sicker and sicker. And it all changed 3 years ago. Don't worry, we're nearly getting to the end now, guys. It all changed 3 years ago when my father, who had become my best friend and biggest supporter in my recovery, phoned me and my brother and said, come to the hospital, I'm not feeling too well, I don't know what's going on. And we got called into this little room in the hospital, and a man turned to us and turned to my dad, and this is what he said to my father. This is how this was told to my father. Ellen, I got bad news for you. You got stage 4 pancreatic cancer and you've got 9 months to live. That is what was said to my father. And this is a man who, like I said, beat depression. He had to relearn how to walk when I was younger. He had been through so much in his life, very similar to kind of situations I had been in. And I looked at him and he just sunk into this chair and he didn't react. And I started, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe. I was crying so hard. I actually walked out the room because I was like, I need to give him space for this to sink over him. And I went to the bathroom, and at this point I was emaciated. I was sick. I was close to death. I was that ill at this point with eating disorder. And then I went back into the room. It was discussed. It's a blur. But as we got out of the room, instead of saying anything about what he was just told, he came up to me and said, please promise me you aren't going to die before me. Please don't go backwards with the drugs and don't die before me because of this eating disorder. And that is when everything shifted for me in regards to the eating disorder. Because that man just got told he was going to die. Yeah. And he put me first. And the way I was looking at him in that room thinking he's only got 9 months to live is the way he had been looking at me my whole life. She's going to die. She's going to die. She's going to die. And that's when my whole world changed. And I was like, I'm actually going to fight this. I'm going to fight this, and that moment changed everything. And in those 9 months, me and my brother looked after my father every single day. He really fought. Hey, he did not want to go. He was such a fighter, very strong man. You would never have thought he would get sick. He was young. He had just turned 60 as well. And he never got to see me recover from the eating. He had the opportunity to see me recover from the drugs, and he was so super proud of it. Like, he told all his friends about it, He was never ashamed of my addiction. That's what I loved about my dad. Never ashamed of it. And
I'm so sorry that happened. Like, that makes me so sad. But at least you got to be with him, and you were working on getting better, and he got to see you get sober. Damn. Why do you think, or I don't know, I don't want to say why, but like, how it must be so hard to have, because I have an ED, but mine is on the other end of the spectrum, where I overeat and then I purge myself, then I overeat and I'll purge. And so it's like, to me, I look, she's fine, she's normal, but they don't understand, like, with food, it's so hard because you have to eat to live. And so it's like you're facing your demon every single day. And so when you got sober, you were still feeling like trying to get outside of yourself, and so being able to do the ED, doing that was something that you could do to get outside of yourself and change the way you felt. And that same thing happened to me when I got sober. My addiction crossed over, and I was doing everything I could to get outside of myself with food, just eating at night, waking up and being like fucking sick from eating like all this chocolate cake and milk. Oh, and
Yep.
so I would do it until I was sick, and it was like anything I could do to escape reality. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what we do. That's we look for things outside of ourselves because we have nothing we're in control of anymore. Nothing that's ours anymore. No little secrets that are, keeping us going, and no way to disassociate.
Yeah.
And that's how we find it with the eating disorders. And it was the thing I was holding on to for so long. It was mine. It was mine. It was mine, and I didn't want to let it go. It was my safety blanket. And when that instance happened with my dad, that's when things changed, and I worked so hard to get through that, and I had tried everything. I do not like group therapy for ED, especially the type I had, because as much as, and I don't mean this negatively, and I'm speaking genuinely, in a group setting with that kind of ED, or any kind of ED, it becomes competitive, not on purpose. Not on purpose. It's my disorder is comparing me to everyone else in the room, and I want to be the sickest. That's how an ED works. And that's why those group settings never work for me. So I knew, okay, that's out of the question. I'm not going to do group therapy for ED. I'm not going to go inpatient, because inpatient, they make it all about the food. And I want food to be normalized. I don't want to sit there having to think, okay, make it a ritual. I don't want it a ritual. I need it to become an intrinsic part of my life where it seems normal, because it is normal. So what I thought was, I'm going to have to change my behavior before my thinking changes. So I forced a behavioral change on myself. So I would have breakfast, small breakfast, not like I'd have breakfast, I'd have some lunch, but I would not act on what I wanted to do in those moments. I wanted to purge. I didn't want to eat the food. Or if I did, I wanted to purge. No, I just had to sit there. I had to sit there. I had to sit with it and hold myself accountable, as uncomfortable as it was, as grueling as it was, as it was hell. It's the definition of hell. And I sat through that for months. I think it took, I did that every day. I messaged people in my life and said, when you see me eating, do not do one of those things where you go, oh my God, you're eating. Finally. You don't mention that,
Right.
Don't do that. And obviously, there's certain instances you don't have control over. Like someone will turn around and go, oh, you're looking so much better, which is a huge trigger with someone with an eating disorder. But again, I had to change my behavior. So when someone did say that thing to me, what am I going to do? I can cry about it and go back to old behavior, or I can just cry about it. Don't have to go back to old behavior. And I did that progressively. And in time, because I forced the behavioral change, my thinking started to change. And as days went by, just like an addiction, I was like, that weight on my shoulders and that constant thinking about what I weigh, what I ate in the day started to fade, which I had never experienced since the age of 14. And as time went by, I am now where I am today, where it's, yes, I have little moments of body dysmorphic disorder, and it's more focused on my face now than anything, because, we cross addict. So now I'm dealing with that. But, I do have those tough moments, but I have to just push through them. Now eating is normal. I mean, I didn't have a burger since the age of 14.
Really?
Since the age of 14.
You would restrict yourself that much that you would only eat certain foods?
Absolutely. I didn't eat a burger. I didn't eat pizza. I didn't eat cheese. Nothing. From the age of 14 until when the issue happened with my father. During that time, that's when I started eating those kinds of fear foods again. And I did it slowly. It wasn't like I quickly ate a burger, one day. I slowly myself to get more and more comfortable with food. And then now I can order a burger right now and eat it and not want to die,
Yeah.
But changing that behavior to get to that point. So now I am 9 years sober from drugs and alcohol, and 3 years in ED recovery.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
That's hard work. I mean, not only did you struggle with drug addiction, but an eating disorder as well. And it's just like you're very fortunate that you were able to change your behaviors and actually put it into action. Because I see so many girls that, they just they can't do that. They struggle. Do you think that because you were already sober from drugs and you had been working the 12 steps, do you think that helped you to be able to get your eating disorder in check?
absolutely. I did it separately. So here's another thing that I feel needs to be brought up, especially in 12-step program settings, is you go into 12-step, you discuss your sobriety, and people don't do this on purpose. If you go in there and you look skinny and you look sick, when you start to get well, other people in the room will be like, oh, you've gained weight, you look so much better, you look this, and they focus on that kind of stuff. And that really messes with people who have EDs.
I hate that.
And it's the worst. It's the
Yeah.
worst. And I became identified as the anorexic girl in Narcotics Anonymous. And then when I decided to get better, I was so scared to go to meetings because I didn't want anyone to comment on the fact that I was getting better, because it's a big trigger, or you're gaining weight, you're looking healthier, those kinds of things. And I was scared to go back into the rooms due to that. So I feel like the 12 steps and getting to know myself and working through the 12 steps definitely got me to a point where I wanted true, honest recovery from the ED. And without working the 12 steps and getting that self-awareness, I would never have gotten to that point. But the rooms, people within the rooms need to be, and I mean, it's hard to get that point across. You can't control what people say, but need to be wary of people within the rooms who do struggle with EDs, because they kind of one and the same. So many people in the rooms do have it. And the scary thing is when you go into the room and you think people are looking at you because of your weight. And I think maybe that's something that should be discussed a bit more. And
I think more people struggle with eating disorders in 12 step that are in recovery than we realize. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
I know when people comment on my weight, and when I show them my pictures from when I was in active addiction to now, and everybody, it's like I know that they mean well, but it's like I know, and for me, like it's on the opposite side. So it's like I know I gained weight. I know, like, it drives me insane. But I can't imagine how it would be like to be on the other side of things and people constantly walking up to you and saying, "Oh my gosh, Toni, you look so good. You're getting your weight back, girl. Oh, look, I can see your butt. Oh, look, your boobs, your face is filling out." And that would just make you cringe because you're like uncomfortable with that new weight coming on. You're trying to learn how to adjust to having the healthy weight. And it's already making you feel insecure as it is. And then you got people pointing it out, you know?
Absolutely. And I feel like something very, very important. And I found in the Narcotics Anonymous rooms here that I think 1 in every 3 people has struggled with an ED or is struggling with an ED. And it's really not spoken about. And it's not just women. There are so many men in the rooms who are struggling, who also don't want to say anything because they're scared of being judged. And NA really is a non-judgmental place, or should be. And I feel like everyone would be open to that discussion if it was brought up.
Yeah.
Which I think it has at some but I was scared when I started gaining weight to go back to the rooms, to step foot in the rooms. But again, I forced myself to, and I spoke up. When someone would say something to me, I would say to them, "I know you mean well. Please don't comment on what I look like. Just don't for now." And then you set a boundary and you set a standard, and it makes your life easier and it makes your recovery easier. And that's my biggest tip, for dealing with that kind of stuff.
You have to set the boundary for how people are going to treat you. So by letting them know that it affects you when they comment that kind of stuff, then hopefully they won't comment it anymore. And then you grow stronger because you were actually assertive and you set that boundary. And it also helps them to respect you more. You know what I'm saying? Do you ever struggle with like Which one do you say you struggle with thinking about relapsing the most? Do you like think about relapsing in your ED more or with your addiction to drugs?
Definitely ED. The drugs, I feel like I had so many reservations going into addiction recovery. I was like, if I get broken up with, if I get cheated on, if my father dies, if I get ill, if this happens, I'm going to relapse. All those things happened, and I didn't relapse. The ED for me is very, very, very scary. If anything, the one thing I keep more of a close eye on would be the ED. And especially, I struggle a lot with body dysmorphia, and it's now transferred to my face. So I have to keep that in check as well. I mean, look, I can't even move my eyebrows, Nick.
Well, so
So
are
yeah,
you looking at yourself, and when you look at yourself in the mirror, are you seeing something different than what we see?
I am. I am most of the time, yes. I
Okay.
would say with it, and it's now my face. It's not my body anymore. It's mostly my face, and I spend way too much time focused on trying to change that. So that's where my battle is kind of now. But I'm speaking about it more. And again, my boyfriend's here, and I hold myself accountable in that regard. I will speak up when I'm
Uh-huh.
going through something like that. And again, that is what helps me. So I think, wait, sorry, I got lost in my thinking there.
So you
What were we saying?
struggle more. No, you answered the question
Oh,
because
yeah.
you think you struggle more with the thoughts of relapsing in your ED. Is that because your eating disorder is your primary focus or your primary problem, and your addiction to drugs came secondary? It seems like because your addiction to methamphetamine sound like it helped fuel the ED.
100%. My primary, the ground issue is my ED. What
Mm-hmm.
I look like, how I'm perceived. When I found my drug of choice, it took away what was going on in my head with that voice and gave me another voice to focus on. And like, you can't compare the two. They're both torturous. But for me, the ED voice was like a devil. It was hell. Absolutely. It was like a constant shadow person, just
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
constantly there. And I know that if anything, the one thing I have to keep a very close eye on is the ED. So my focus would be more on that as my biggest concern. So yeah.
Damn, you're doing really good. I mean, you've come so far. 9 years sober is a long ass time. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Thank
That's
you
a
so
really
much.
long time. And listen to me, everybody's doing Botox and all that stuff. So, I don't do it because my husband won't let me, but I need to.
No, you don't. Carl is also, I need to do it, and I'm just like, go out the house and get it done.
I
Oh, it's
just
moving
want to get
now.
it right here because of this and these lines. But other than that, I don't, I would be fine. And maybe
Yeah,
some of
you
this
need.
where they jaw contour, you know what I'm talking about? Where they can make it like, that would be
Can
awesome.
they do? No. Now,
You know what I saw this one girl do? She got these threads put in her face. They put threads in there and then they pull the threads back. And so it tightens the face and it's underneath the skin.
there's one they do that here for what's called the fox eye. And
Yes.
I was showing my boyfriend they do that the other day, and he was like, I would never do that. I would never do that. But yeah, I do look into that kind of stuff.
So, okay, one more question. Let me think of another question. Okay, here's a good question. If you could say one thing, or if you could help somebody, if somebody in the audience right now that is struggling with an eating disorder and addiction, what would you tell them? How would you help them?
Ooh. I would tell them it would start off like this. You do you want to live like this for the rest of your life? Is this something that you want to live with for the rest of your life? Logically, from a specific point of view, do you not want anything to change? Obviously, you want something to change. The way to make that change is you got to have to put in the hard work and look at yourself really, really proactively. And I get harsh with this. Stop playing the victim. Stop playing the victim, reach out, ask for help, and deal with the decisions you have made. Work through your guilt and shame. And I promise you, if you trust that process, as hard as it is, you will get to the other side. Because when going through hell, keep going, because you're going to get out. You're going to get out. And for me, it's about reaching out, finding community to help you. And when it comes to the ED, forcing that behavioral change in order to allow your thinking to change. And that's my advice, my most honest, brutal advice. And you have to want it.
Yeah.
You have to want it.
Fellowship is really important though, and I think that for some people that aren't ready to get sober, just getting involved and coming to like these live streams and hanging out with us when we talk about recovery is a great step in the right direction. And hopefully, like by hearing our stories and hearing us share, it'll help them want to change and get sober too,
Absolutely. Oh, this was
Tell
great.
me one more question.
Go for it.
What do you do daily? What are some things that you do every single day that help you in your recovery journey?
Okay, so first of all, I have a sponsee who means the world to me, and I speak to her every day. And she grounds me as much as I ground her. It brings you back to that realization that, hey, you got to give back, dude. It's all well and good to be in the recovery space, but you have to give back. I find that for me to be the most important part of my recovery today. So there's that aspect. And then I have now finished a coaching course that I am now an addiction recovery coach. And working in that space means the absolute world to me. And I make sure to be in that space at least an hour a day. By that, I mean speaking to people online regarding recovery, sharing my story, listening to other stories, responding to other stories, and learning, getting more resources, looking into apps and, specific issues within my country to figure out, ways to help and ways to reach people. And I do that every single day, be it literally speaking to people through social media, on my personal emails and online, or just simply making a TikTok video, that's fun but educational at the same time and has a lesson. And I feel those things help me very much. The creativity is very important to me. I study drama. I'm a writer. I'm an actress. Like, that's what I used to do. I'm a writer now. I used to be an actress. Ruined that with drugs and alcohol, but that's a whole other story. Creatively telling my story and creatively speaking to people about their experiences means the world to me. And then when it comes to the eating disorder, for me, it's just enjoying food. Just allowing myself to enjoy food. The other day we were in the shops and Carl was like, what do you want to get? Usually I'm quite like, I get nervous thinking about what food I want to get. And I was like, what I feel like? Olives. And I haven't had olives in forever. It was just a thought I had, and now I'm enjoying olives.
Good.
Just allow to enjoy small things like that means so much to me and helps me so much.
I'm so proud of you. Like, you can genuinely hear, you are so genuine and like you're genuine, and there's some people when I meet them and they share their stories, like I can't relate to them. I don't feel that like genuine connection or that genuine care for other people. And I just feel that, I feel like you have a genuineness about really wanting to help people. If people want to hire you as a recovery coach, can they?
Absolutely. I'm actually available through here. You can reach me through here, or pop me an email. Let me try. Okay, this is long. It's from my YouTube channel. It's truthhurtswithtoniquinn@gmail.com. And through there we can discuss stuff. I'm also available through an app called Pocket Rehab, where you can reach me and we can set up sessions there, which I'm going to tell you about, Nick. It's amazing. You will love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you will love it. You just speak to David Collins Coaching. I tag you in the comment section of all my videos. I'll tag him. He runs it. He's unbelievable in this country. He's a guy from the UK who lives in South Africa and is just incredible, and created like part of this app that's just, it's international and it's amazing.
Will you text me all the links, text me the stuff to your coaching, text me so that way when I upload this video onto YouTube, I can put it in the description and in the comment section, so that way if anybody wants to reach out to you for coaching, they can.
Brilliant, brilliant. I'm so excited. I'm going to share Pocket Rehab with you because I know you are going to love it. I mean, it connects people, addicts, coaches, with help, with groups. It's beautiful.
That's awesome.
So,
I really appreciate you coming on with me. So, is there anything else that before we before I go, is there anything else that you want to say before we see you later?
I just want to say thank you to you for everything that you do online. You're an amazing human being, and I absolutely adore you and everything you're doing. And I think the entire recovery community thanks you for that from the bottom of my heart. And I just want everyone out there to know that it works if you work it, man. And again, we do recover. We really do.
Thank you. I love you so much. Like, you're such a beautiful person. I hope you know that. And if you're ever, I really hope that you hear what I'm saying. Like, you are beautiful inside and out, but your inside is so, so beautiful that it totally overshadows anything that's going on out here, just so you know. So you don't even have to worry. Like, if you're ever having a day where you feel insecure or you don't feel like you're doing well, like, it's the person on the inside that's so amazing. And that's what that's what I have to lean on. It's like, when I have a day and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so fat, I'm so ugly, it's like I'm beautiful on the outside, but I'm beautiful on the inside, and I care about people. You know what I mean? So anyway, I love you, girl. Text me all your information, and I'm gonna put this video on YouTube. Okay?
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you everyone who watched. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Love you, Toni.
Love you. Bye, Nix.
Bye. Hey, y'all. I just absolutely adore her. Okay, so that's Toni Quinn, my girl, my friend from South Africa. I'm telling you guys, like, I really do love her, and she and I have gotten really close over the last couple of months that we have been friends. I'm going to get all of her information for her coaching and stuff, and I'm going to link it in the video when I upload it onto YouTube. If you guys all are not already following Toni, please go over there and follow her on her TikTok account. She's amazing, and y'all will love her, I promise. So, like I said, thank you so much, Toni, for sharing your experience, strength, and hope with us, girl. We love you, and we're proud of you. And all the girls out there that watch this, Toni is an awesome role model. She is somebody that can help you with so many different aspects of your life. The fact that she's been through an ED and come out on the other side of this is a miracle. And I'm telling you guys, she is a walking miracle. So I'm going to download this video and get it ready to put up on my YouTube channel, eat something, and then I'll come back and we can talk about it, okay? Love you guys.